Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Miss Megan. I'm a children's librarian with the Hawaii State Public Library System. Today we're going to be making a super simple keiki craft. We're going to be making these little rainbow fish out of toilet paper rolls, which I'm sure you all have lots of at home. And all the other supplies are very simple. Most of you will have these at home, so it'll be really easy to make. So stay tuned. So the supplies you will need are really simple. You'll need a toilet paper roll, preferably with as much of the paper peeled off as possible, scissors, aluminum foil, markers. I use Sharpies because that's what I have available, but if you have regular markers for kids, that'll work just as well. Elmer's glue or any other kind of stick glue, and paper. So if you don't have printer paper at home, like I didn't, I used the margins of a notebook and I just cut out the top. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take your toilet paper roll and make it as flat as you can, so just push it down until it's sort of like this. And then what we're going to do is draw some triangles. So as you notice in the example, there's a cutout for the mouth, and then we cut two almost identical triangles out of the tail. And we like to keep the cardboard still connected because that way it's easier to color later on. So just cut as close, but not quite, to the tip of the toilet paper roll. To help with this, I like to draw triangles that help me figure out what the part needs to look like when I cut it out. So I'm going to draw a triangle like this. And like this. And then one for the mouth as well. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And then what you're going to do is just cut out on the lines that you made. So just cut, remember, don't cut at the tip, just a little bit inside of it. You might need the adult scissors to do this, or an adult to cut if you have really little ones. So there we have one side. And don't cut out to the tip quite yet. If you do manage to cut off the end, it's okay. It just will be a little bit more difficult to color, but it won't ruin the project. So there we have roughly that side cut out. And then we're going to cut out the mouth. And that's our basic fish shape. And as you might see, there are some black lines on this side, and there are not on this side. So what I like to do to make it even on both sides is just trace the outline. So it just looks equal on both sides, so it's symmetrical. Let me do the same on the other side to make sure it's right at the line. Awesome, so we have our basic fish all set and ready to go. So next we're going to make the eyes. So what I like to do to make any set of multiple things, I like to fold the paper in half. That way I know I'm getting identical shapes when I cut it out. So what I'm gonna do is draw a big circle, and it doesn't need to be a perfect circle. It doesn't need to be a perfect oval. It can be an oval or a circle. Any amount of perfection is more than acceptable. And we're going to cut around the outside. Now we have two identical ovals, and like before, I like to make mine even on both sides, so I'm just gonna really easily trace the outline of this so that we get a nice black outline around the eye. There we go. So let us glue on the eyes. So I'm just going to really easily just glue them on. Mine will be a silly looking fish, so he'll have really big eyes. But your eyes can be any size you want. And if you have googly eyes at home, that's great too. I didn't have any googly eyes on me, so I'm making them DIY. Next, what I'm going to do is all eyes usually have pupils, right? The dark center in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle. And to make it look like there's light shining in this fish's eye, I'm going to draw another very tiny circle. And then I'm going to color in this circle. So it looks like that. I'm going to do the same on the other side. There we go. So while we're letting the glue dry on the eyes, what I'm going to do is fold this foil in half and again in half. So it has 4 layers through here. And what I'm going to do is cut out a teardrop shape, and it can be any size you want. I find it easier to cut out the foil if it's a little bit bigger. And you'll see when I cut this out, it's going to be a little bit difficult because the foil's really bendy. So bear with me. There we go. So we have a teardrop shape, and not only do we have one teardrop shape, we have not only one, but 1, 2, 3, 4 scales. And these are going to be our rainbow scales. So before we glue on the scales, what is really important to do is to draw on the fin, because we don't want to glue the scales over where the fin should be. So let's draw a little fin on each side. Okay, and on the other side. doesn't matter if they're exactly the same on both sides. And then what we're going to do is glue on our iridescent rainbow scales. So let's do that. I'm going to put 2 on each side. And let's flip it over. Do the same on this side. Okay, and let's wait for the glue to dry, otherwise you cannot color over it with markers. Now comes for drawing the outlines of the scales, which, if I have any advice, is to make the scales really big. That way it's easier to color in later and you don't have to worry about coloring in 50 or more little half loops. So I advise you to make them nice and big. So let's go. Now, if you would like to make your fish a little bit more realistic, you can draw on gills, which on the example I drew on kind of pink, so I drew a couple lines like this in black and then shadowed them with pink. That's entirely optional and you don't have to if you don't want to. So here is my half-finished rainbow fish. If you want, you can color the other side in the same pattern or a different pattern, and you can add sequins or glitter if you have either of those. And compared to the original, these are our little 2 rainbow fish. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more videos. Thank you!